Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Cece Coltrane, and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton. If this is your first visit here, a very special welcome to you, and thanks for spending your morning with us today. There's on your bulletin cover a little perforated strip that you can use to put down your contact information. We promise we don't sell it to anyone. We use it only to send out a little Wednesday pick-me-up in the middle of the week. That'll pick you right up. Woo. Kenny has a new keyboard, so we're in trouble.
It was a ta-da moment.
I see. Okay.
Ta-da.
Ta-da for. We need drums on that one. Boom, boom.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Anyway, you can fill that out and take it over to the Welcome Center at the end of the service, or just drop it in the offering basket when it goes around. You can also get any questions you might have answered over at the Welcome Center. This morning, our pulpit assistant is Jerry Blumgold, and our vigil holder is Judy Nussmacher. Our interfaith candle lighting will be done by Lenza Smith and moi. Our interfaith candle lighting is to remind us of all of the sources of wisdom that are available to us from all of the world's religious traditions. And so we take a moment to just remember that and to honor all of them. And so now our resident gardener is going to gather up the kids. If you want to go over with her. We're going to say a real quick little blessing for you all. And I think she's going to make them harvest today. I'm not sure, but they have beautiful gardens out there in those raised beds that are over here. They've got cucumbers and zucchini and tomatoes and herbs and flowers and all sorts of things. So let's join for just a moment in consciousness with these beautiful, beautiful youngsters, and just know with them that right where they are, right where I am, God is, for God is all there is. And so right where each one of you is, God is present also, in your joy, in your laughter, in your play, in your study, in all that you do. And you are expressions of that one beautiful life. And so I simply speak a word of blessing for all of you today, knowing that what you do brings the world more joy as you have more joy. And that your harvest is a harvest of love. And so grateful I am that you are here with us. Love the cool shades. And that your garden is growing so beautifully in all ways. Your outer garden, your inner garden, the garden you bring to us. And in gratitude, I simply release these words, knowing it's already so. And so it is. So it is. Happy playing, guys. Enjoy the new play set.
Come on.
Yes, we finally got our play set up and running.
All right.
Yay, yay.
Wait, then. I'm on it.
So now I'm going to sit down, and the band is going to sing something fabulous. I think it's So Small.
Yes.
Which is such a good song.
Okay, we're going to feature Becky on a song by Carrie Underwood, and this is called So Small, It's Not About Me.
The podium. Thank you. So we light the first candle in honor of Judaism. Our God, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God, you are a gracious and compassionate God who keeps loving kindness and in your great compassion does not forsake. The second candle is lit to honor Christianity. Finally, all of you live in harmony with one another. Be sympathetic. Love as brothers. Be compassionate and humble. The third candle is lit to honor Buddhism. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. The fourth candle is lit to honor Hinduism. It is easy enough to be friendly to one's friends, but to befriend the one who regards himself as your enemy is the quintessence of true religion. The other is mere business. The fifth candle is lit to honor Islam. We have the ability to forgive, to understand, and to comfort one another. Compassion is the essence of who we are. It is the best part of us, the quality that makes us worthy of the mercy of Allah. Our love is an elemental force of vast, untapped potential. We only have to be who Allah created us to be. If we can aspire to that and hew to it, it will suffice us and the earth itself. The sixth candle is lit to honor Baha'i. It is your duty to be exceedingly kind to every human being and to wish him well, to work for the upliftment of society until you change the world of man into the world of God. And the final candle is lit to honor Taoism. Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain and your neighbor's loss as your own loss.
Today's reading is Accepting What Is. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and in my attitudes. Let's take these words into the silence for a moment. So I know today is a day of God expressing. Every aspect of this service is God expressing. Every note played, sung, every word spoken, everything unfolding in this center is God expressing. And I know that right where we are, we stand centered in that truth, centered in that love, centered in that compassion. And I thank you, God, for this time that we are sharing. And so it is.
I know that reading was familiar to a fair number of you. It's a pretty famous one. I first heard it at more than 30 years ago at an AA meeting. It's pretty famous in 12-step circles. And when I heard it, I'll never forget my response. Right, sure. What the hell? Especially the part about I can find no serenity until I accept that things are just the way they're supposed to be. Come on, really? I don't know about you, but I still feel that way sometimes. Am I supposed to just accept when someone I love is in pain, or just accept when someone's picking on someone I love, or when the world looks scary, or when I can't pay my bills? Am I supposed to just accept that? Am I supposed to just say to someone who's walking through crisis, acceptance is the key to all your problems today? I mean, that's sort of like meeting Jesus on the cross and saying, well, you know, there's no such thing as death, so don't worry about it, right? It's not kind. It's not compassionate. Some days this is really a hard thing for me to do, accepting what is. I'm a scrapper. I always have been. You know, I can not only tell you what needs to be changed, I can tell you exactly how it needs to change. I can give you a list. I'm ready to do that at any moment. Because that's who I am, right? This is not an easy thing, but I also don't think I'm alone in it. Ever have trouble just accepting what is from time to time? I think most people do. I think we all have trouble accepting life on life's terms, and trouble particularly concentrating not on what needs to be changed out there, but instead on what needs to be changed in here. I think it's difficult when you're having a fight with your boss, or facing a crisis, or things are not going well with your spouse, or you're looking down the barrel of a serious illness. The last thing probably well, it's certainly not the first thing in your mind is, I will accept with equanimity that this is just life on life's terms, right? It's not where we go. It's not where we go. It's not where we go first. And that's the way it's supposed to be, because we're human as well as evolutionary spiritual beings. And if the human isn't honored and accepted, even when it's freaking out, we're missing something. But it's not easy to do. It's not easy to sort of look at things and say, this really is life on life's terms. And what I've learned about that in the 30 years since I first heard that reading is that the acceptance that we're talking about is very paradoxical. It's totally a paradox. You know, two seemingly opposite things, both of which are true at the same time. Holding paradox well is difficult. It's hard to learn, and nobody teaches us how to do it. They don't have a class in school that says, here's how you hold paradox with grace and ease, right? They should, because most of our lives are paradoxical, but they don't. See, the paradox is this: if we want peace and joy in our lives, if we want to be able to live full and free lives, we absolutely do have to accept life as it shows up. We absolutely have to accept life on life's terms. Otherwise, we just waste a whole bunch of energy being angry and upset about it. At the same time, we have to remember that there's much more to us and to life than just the facts and circumstances. We have to identify and accept the spiritual truth of the situation or the person, because that's where our power lies. That's where our power lies. When we can hold those two things together at the same time, in equipoise, in balance, then we come out of the situation wiser, happier, freer. Life is easier. There's a great Buddhist story about a man who wanted to become an expert swordsman. So he found the perfect teacher. He found the one in the land who was acknowledged to be the greatest swordsman in the country. And he went to the man and he said, how long will it take me to become an expert swordsman? And the teacher said, 5 years. And the man said, how long will it take me if I work really, really hard? And the teacher said, 10 years. There's a lot of truth to that. When we struggle to attain something, when we struggle for an achievement, sometimes we actually push it away because we're so caught up in the struggle. We put so much stress on ourselves, and there's so much urgency about everything that we wind up worn out. We may actually eventually get what we want, but we have missed enjoying the journey along the way. We've missed the learning of the journey, and we've made things longer and harder and more frustrating than they need to be. When we rail against how things are, we waste a lot of energy railing, right? There's a little catchphrase that you may have heard, certainly around here: what you resist persists. And it's really true, because resistance is our lack of acceptance, and it's a lot of energy that we keep putting into the situation, and it keeps what we're resisting right there in front of us all the time. We're feeding the thing with our energy of resistance. When we refuse to acknowledge the truth with the small t, the facts, the circumstances of the moment we're resisting, what we're doing is feeding our attachment to that thing we don't want. There's a Buddhist teacher whose name is Tara Brach, and she defined acceptance as recognizing the small t truth of this moment with no resistance. With no resistance. And the reason this is about love is because in order to do that, we have to create a space in ourselves that is unconditionally loving. Genuine acceptance is a conscious act of love for ourselves and for the world. Because instead of reacting unconsciously to whatever's come up, through our habituated thinking and our old beliefs and our feelings about ourselves of not being worthy or being sinful or whatever they are, instead of reacting out of that, acceptance gives us an alternative. It creates a whole lot of space around the thing that we're thinking about, and we can pause for a minute from our reactivity and just intend to soften. Let's just soften up about this thing and not judge it. And that too is a very paradoxical thing, because we have to be willing to put down the resistance in order to be free of the thing we resist. It's tricky, not easy. We have to accept it. We have to accept our feelings in order to change our own mental and emotional state about the thing. We have to acknowledge and accept the reality of what's happening. At the same time, we acknowledge and accept the truth that despite the circumstances, that thing that we call spirit or God or the universe or an intelligence, whatever you call it, is there too. Truth with a capital T is still operating in the situation, no matter what the circumstances are. The illustration of Jesus on the cross is actually an apt one. I was a little bit flipped before, and I didn't do it respectfully. I did not do it disrespectfully. It's an apt illustration. The man, Jesus, is dying horribly and painfully. The inner Jesus, the Christed one, knows that there's really no such thing as death. That's the paradox, right? That's the point of the whole story, isn't it? To remind us of that. So, in our smaller day-to-day stuff, our grievances, our pain, our upsets, our fights, our annoyances, our suffering, it works the same way. We have to acknowledge the facts, the small t truths, the way life is, and we have to remember the big T truth at the same time. Acceptance truly is the key, the answer to all of our problems. For example, once we accept that aging is a process that is going to go on, for those of us who are fortunate enough to live to see it, it's going to go on regardless. We can slap cream on our face, we can have stuff injected into our face, we can have surgery, and the process is still going to go on, right? Have you ever seen that human Barbie doll? Oh, she's so frightening. She's a woman who's had so many surgeries to make her look like a Barbie doll. She looks like a Barbie doll. And it's freakish. It's really weird. We can do all that stuff, and our bodies are still aging. If we're fortunate enough to be there for it, then we can acknowledge that sometimes we feel like our bodies have betrayed us, right? There's pain and sadness and fear, and it all comes up around this failure of the body. But at the same time, we can accept that aging is a process all human beings go through. As I say, if we're favored enough to be here for it, here it is, whatever it is, right now. And at the same time, we can acknowledge that deep spiritual truth, which is we are whole, perfect, and eternal every moment of every day of eternity. That's the spiritual truth underneath of it. When we're in the midst of a financial crisis, we can go ahead and feel what we're feeling. My bank balance won't cover the bills I have to pay. That always makes me feel fear, anxiety, like my life is a little out of control. I'm all shook up, as Elvis would say. And I know that financial crisis hits most of us at some point during our lives, maybe several times. This last weekend, our HVAC system went kaput. It's 25 years old and it's breathed its last, and that is a giant expense. And so what do? You get a new one, right? And you figure it out, and that's what we did. Just got to do it sometimes, and we just have to accept that this is what it is, and it's part and parcel of living in our society. So we can accept that life on its own terms is delivering this to us. And at the same time, we can remember that we're sourced by something infinite. We're sourced by the infinite. And if we can let spirit be our source rather than our bank accounts or our paychecks, things have a way of figuring themselves out. They have for me for 60 years. I said that again out loud. Spirit, this talk is for me. Have you noticed? It's not it's for me today. It really is. Spirit is always flowing into our lives and through our lives. When we can simply hold these paradoxical things gently, then we're in the place where transformation has a chance of occurring. If we can't get beyond the fear and the rage and the pain or the illness or the infirmity or the financial difficulty, maybe it's because we're simply not accepting that those are the facts. Those are the circumstances. That is what life has brought at this moment. It's life on life's terms. And create the space of love inside ourselves where we can accept that without resistance. Once we do that, once we're in the place of just acknowledging, hey, this is life, right? Then we can lean into that which is greater than we are. We can lean into each other. We can lean into our spiritual perfection, our oneness with God, our oneness with everything else, and show up for ourselves from this vast space of acceptance. The space of love that allows transformation. The reason it's the place of transformation is because as long as we're refusing, resisting, all of that resistance and all the things we're refusing to acknowledge sort of nibble away at the edges of our minds and our consciousness and our souls, and they just nibble away. We see them all, they're like bigger than life for us when we're resisting and pushing them away and denying them. And all of that reduces our focus on the capital T truth, which is right where I am, God is present. Right in this moment, no matter what it looks like. Spirit is active. Regardless of what my checkbook says, I am sourced in the infinite, right? We can't focus on that while all this other stuff and all this resistance is nibbling away at us. The other thing is, our topic this month is love and caring and compassion. Until we can hold both sides of that paradox with a little bit of grace, then when somebody we love is in terror or pain or illness or worry, it's hard to be truly compassionate. It's only when we can acknowledge the facts that they are facing and the truth of who they are that we come with that openness and we just put out our hands. That's all we have to do. Put out our hands and reach out with love and say, I'll walk through this difficulty with you. That's real compassion. Sometimes we may find ourselves at the place where reminding them of the spiritual truth is appropriate. Most of the time, it's not. It's not ours to remind them of. But sometimes we'll find ourselves at the moment where it is appropriate. But even if we don't, we're there with our hearts and our shoulders and our love. And that's all we need to do, right? We can lend them all of that, plus our own faith without speaking a single word. That's what real compassion is. When we come from this vast space of acceptance, this loving space within ourselves, then we don't come with self-righteousness. We don't come with dismissing them in any way. We're simply there for all of them. Acceptance on life's acceptance of life on life's terms and the feelings that it brings up is the beginning of the journey, not the end. And I want to be clear that I'm not talking in any way about complacency. I have heard people say, in the midst of just horrendous crap, oh, well, it's all good. Right in this moment, it's not. These facts are terrible. Underneath that, there is good. That's true. But when we refuse to acknowledge them and acknowledge the facts and accept the facts, and we kind of try and shrug them off and say, oh well, it's all good. Stevie Wonder had something interesting to say about that. See, there are gurus everywhere, right? He said, make sure when you say you're in it but not of it, you're not helping to turn this into the place sometimes called hell. That's a really pithy statement, right? Oh, I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world, and it's all good. Kind of helps contribute to the hell, I think, because that makes the person who is in the midst of pain, we've just dismissed them. We've just dismissed them. Instead of trying to lean in with our open hearts and our open compassion and say, here's my hand, I'll walk with you. I'm talking about the first step here, accepting what is. And then our spiritual practices, particularly mindfulness and meditation, show us the rest of the paradox that we have to pick up. They will show us what we're doing to contribute to the problem. They'll show us how we're resisting and feeding into the energy of the problem. They'll also show us how powerful it is to turn to the spiritual truth, not dismissing or ignoring the facts, but holding the spiritual truth there too. When we hold it all gently, then the spiritual truth becomes where we place our faith, and there's nothing nibbling away at it. We can just bring our faith to the situation, and usually that's enough. Things shift. We shift. The facts shift. The situation changes. And this graceful holding of paradox is not easy. It's difficult, I think, to learn how to accept how things are and just let them be there, and at the same time pick up the spiritual truth. And we've all done it. We all change our minds deeply about many things. My suggestion is just to remember to do it consciously next time you find yourself in a weird or difficult or stressful situation. Bring real compassion to yourself. Bring real compassion to the others that are involved in the situation. Because until we do that deep work, this deep work that I'm talking about, nothing in the world changes, right? Nothing in the world of form will change as long as our minds stay the same and continue to run around saying, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, instead of, this is what is, and what else am I going to bring to this party? What else am I going to bring to this situation? Nothing in the world changes. Society is simply the matrix of all of our minds and emotions. And so that's what we live in. And so until we start to change our minds and change our emotions, we don't change the matrix, so we don't change the world. Once we do, once we start to have a different experience in here because we're standing there with the paradox, both and the facts and the spiritual truth, when we arrive there, we are at the place where we remember that we're powerful beyond measure, that we are filled with light, that we are the place that this kind of love, this love that accepts what is true with a small t and knows deeply what is true with a capital T, we are the place that that kind of love flows into the world. That's why we are here. So now we're going to open it up. I'm going to run to you with the microphone. If you have anything you want to say, add, question, yell at me for, acknowledge, the mic is yours. We might get out of here early. All right.
I'll get us going.
Good, thank you.
I was just going to say I could have totally used this a week earlier, but that's how it goes, so now we can be conscious of it. But yeah, to give people some slack, I was even, thinking of compassion because it is a theme, but to actually focus on the things do how it is supposed to be is bring it to in the future instead of the negative energy. It just cuts it off right there. So.
Right, thank you.
Come on, quiet crowd today. Think about one thing. You don't have to say this out loud. I just want to invite you to think of one thing from this message that you will remember and focus on. It's a lot, and it's hard. This is the hard spiritual work of learning to have a foot in both spirit and human, which is where we are all the time. It's just getting conscious about it, right? It's sort of like aging, isn't it? It's going on regardless. We are spirit and human at the same time. We are this enormous, brilliant light. At the same time, we're, doing weird stuff. I can't remember who it was, but I quoted it a while ago. You are whole, perfect, and complete, and you could use a little work. I have that on my wall because it reminds me every day of what I face, right? I could always use a little work. And I am whole, perfect, and complete, and eternal. So let's pray together, shall we? Join me in simply becoming present, inhabiting your bodies, breathing deeply. As we come together in this moment, I remember what I know to be the very truth of all existence, that it's all God, that there's nothing outside of that creative power, that creative principle, that creative presence, that thought or spoke into being all that exists, and that continues to maintain all that is, form changing all the time, essence changing never. It's the very essence of life, of existence, the very force that holds subatomic particles together, the very same force that holds Earth right where it needs to be, so that we get up in the morning, so that we have the opportunity to age, so that we have the opportunity to love one another. It is that same power and presence that gives rise to our thoughts, to our breath, to our movements. It flows in and as and through us. It is the very life we live. And it lives in each one of us. We are the place where it makes itself known on this planet. And we have evolved to the point where we are conscious of that. We get to consciously choose the energy that we put out into the world. It's all God. In all of its variety, in all of its diversity. It's all this one. And I am you and you are me, and there is only one of us here. And as we remember that, I know that each of us simply steps into that place within that is soft and gentle and loving and opens out a place of compassion, a space where there is room enough to let the facts and the truth live together. We hold that paradoxical human spirit thing so gently, so lovingly, that it becomes grace in us, and it shows us what step to take next and what step to take after that. So that whatever it is we are facing is easily faced, is easily dealt with, is easily walked through, and we arrive at the other side fuller, freer, wiser, and more loving. I am so grateful for this community of beautiful, beautiful people who are seeking to become all that they came here to be, to practice what's possible. How grateful I am to be part of it. How grateful I am for this time we have together to simply acknowledge our source and our being. And from this place of deep gratitude, I simply release these words. I know already that God has heard them, Spirit has picked them up, has said yes to us as Spirit always does. has made them so. And so from deep gratitude we say together, and so it is.
I'm just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious web of life.
We are all just drops within a stream flowing towards an ocean of light.
We may forget where we come from. We may forget where we're going to. I might not see that you're a reflection of me as much as I'm a reflection of you. I'm just a seed, a blessed seed with eternity unfolding in me. And I pray that as I grow, I will reveal the love that illuminates my soul. When I remember where I come from, when I remember where I'm going to, then I will see that you're a reflection of me as much as I'm a reflection of you. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one.
And an amen. While our ushers are coming up, I'll just note that we now have an opportunity to give in support of this community and its work. Your generosity is what makes it possible for us to be here on Sunday, to offer the classes that we offer, to provide the workshops and host the events that we offer. So thank you very much for your support. And I invite you to just take your gift in your hands, or if you give electronically as I do, in your heart, and affirm with me, I am joyful.
I
am joyful. I am free.
I am free.
I am grateful.
I am grateful.
I give with gratitude.
I give with gratitude.
And I say yes
And I say yes
to all the good life has to offer.
to all the good life has to offer.
And so it is.
And so it is.
So,
Can I say something, Cece, about the kids?
yes. You want to say that now?
Yeah, let me just a quickie. Just to let y'all know, I was back with Steph and the kids, and they were so proud of the vegetables that they've harvested today. And the kids wanted the congregation who has supported them so much to be the ones to get the first harvest. So we have plastic bags out on the table. There's lots of fresh lettuce, there's tomato, cucumbers, and everything. So look it over, and the kids were just excited to share that with you. And they're still in the back doing some good stuff, so I just want to let you know.
I wish you could have heard their voices before they were out there. I'm like, there's vegetables out there waiting for you. I said, there's a cucumber. A cucumber? There's one little guy. A cucumber? A cucumber? Yeah, it's a cucumber. So
That's a pile of stuff. They are growing like wild out, like the wild, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. If you are new or new-ish, or if you just want to come, please join me and some others for Rap with the Rev. We'll start about noon or just before in the adult classroom. We do this monthly, so if you can't make it today, we understand. It's just an opportunity for us to get to know each other better. There's some snacks in the social hall, and then you can just come on into the adult classroom, which is right across the hall from the social hall door, noon to about 1. It's just about an hour. I'd love to have you. And Saturday, August 19th, which is this next Saturday coming up, join us for Heart Fest at the Heartfulness Center in Beaver Creek. It's a free event, and we're participating. We have a booth there. There's yoga, meditation, other sorts of body practices. There's great speakers. There's workshops. I'm one of the speakers. Noon. There's other great speakers on the main stage. There's workshops. There's food trucks. it's gonna be a giant celebration of spiritual practice and wellness. So, and it's free at the Heartfulness Center in Beaver Creek. If there's nothing, I think the address is in your bulletin. If not, there's some flyers over there by the veggies. Then Saturday evening here, we're hosting a dance concert called Spirit. It's a benefit for the work of Guy Jones, who is one of the founders of the Miami Valley Council for Native Americans. And it ought to be a fabulous thing, and it's $10. And it will be filled with wonderful dance. So please come back here that evening. What time is it?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, right here. So please come back for that. You can look at the last page of your bulletin insert for the calendar of what's coming up. And there's also some other flyers about some events that are a little bit farther down the road over on the table. Good stuff happening. If there is something that is not going quite so right in your life, or anything you'd like prayer about, after service, our licensed practitioners are here to pray with you. They are the ones with the teal or sometimes white stoles. Just walk up to them and say, I'd like prayer, and they will find a private place, a private corner, and explore with you that deep spiritual truth that underlies the facts and circumstances that may be going on. It's their gift to you on Sunday. You can also put a written prayer request back in the prayer chest, and these practitioners will pick it up and pray with you. You can actually also call our prayer line or even go to our website and make our prayer request. I think that is it. Where are you guys meeting?
Wherever you're not.
Oh, we'll be in the adult classroom, so if you're one of the small group leaders to meet with Linda, you could go in the library, I guess. You'd start there, go in the lending library with Linda, and then she'll figure out where to take you from there. Sometimes getting our meetings in the right place is a feat around here. So anyway, for the first 3 minutes after service, you know the drill. Go talk to somebody you don't know very well, get to know them a little better, and make sure that you get all of those wonderful, wonderful hugs. Hugs are very important, so collect your 12 hugs for spiritual growth today before you leave. And thanks to everybody who made this morning possible. Our ushers and greeters, the practitioners, the Higher Mind Band, yes. As always, fabulous music. And right on. Still can't figure out how that happens, but it's always just really right on with the lyrics. The welcome team and all of you. We couldn't do it without you for sure. So please stand up. We'll do our closing affirmation, then our closing song, which is I am a light in this world and I shine.
Yes.
And yes, you do. So know with me today, I accept life on life's terms.
I accept life on life's terms.
I know the truth of myself.
I know the truth of myself.
I bring love and compassion
I bring love and compassion
to myself and my world.
to myself and my world.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Have a great week, everybody.
One and a two and